The sun dipped below the horizon as 4 up-and-coming adventurers dismounted a white beast. Third rate compared to great and venerable Golden Phoenix, to be sure, but a trustworthy mount nonetheless. Before them stood the domain of the Senior, known to its unsavory patrons as the Senior Center. Its walls loomed tall and strong, and it had but one gate. No doubt seniors, those weathered by time and soaked in malice, lay in wait within, but so did the rumor of a great treasure. In fact, not long ago, Sir Caleb and his comrade, Ben the Brave, though known to us as Ben the Foolhardy, journeyed within and glimpsed with their own eyes the rumored fount of eternal comfort. Yes, it turns out the fount of eternal youth worked a little too well, and everyone who drank of it kept getting, turned into zygotes, so understandably, it lost its popularity. The fount of eternal comfort is said to give any who set foot in its hot waters perfect contentment in both body and mind. Its gentle ripples are rumored to instill peace in one's very bones. But alas, the seniors, jealous as they are for the pleasures of our world, have hidden it within their walls, and often keep it under guard of some fearsome warriors, whose mere gaze is capable of making any adventurer quiver in fear. Nevertheless, in hope, Joe the Jobless, Sir Caleb, and Ben the Foolhardy, plus I, ventured to crack the seniors' gates and creep inside. Stop! An old, crackling voice halted us, and our hearts sank. Already we had been found out. Emerging from the darkness, an old man hobbles toward us. We quickly draw our blades and hold them at the ready. His eyes, long blind and pure white, stare into nothingness as he samples the air. You're no senior. I look to Sir Caleb, and then to Ben the Foolhardy, and then my eyes lock back on the senior before us. What do we do? I whisper frantically. Suddenly, Joe the Jobless squares his very large, attractive shoulders and steps forward. He speaks, and the voice that comes forth is like that of an ancient tree as it creaks in the wind. But we are seniors. Now let us pass. The senior stops his advance, a look of confusion placed upon his face. You sound old, but... He sniffs the air once again. Your scent is that of youth. The last word slides off his tongue with a hiss. I look to Joe the Jobless, fear etched in my gaze. Joe collects himself and speaks again. This is because we recently indulged ourselves in the slaughter of the young, and are currently wearing their skin. Joe flinches as he utters those final words. Even he wouldn't believe such an obvious lie. Ben the Foolhardy prepares himself to strike, but Sir Caleb stops him. The senior's eyes widen. You are inquisitors? Worry etches itself onto his brow, and he pauses. Ben the Foolhardy looks over to me and whispers, What's an inquisitor? I shake my head as if to say I have no more ideas than he. The senior seems to regain some of his composure. My lords, if it is as you say, I beg your forgiveness, but... His unseeing eyes narrow. If you will indulge me. He hobbles a few steps forward. May I but feel your arm? Joe the Jobless swallows hard, but says with perfect composure, I'll allow it. And he holds out his arm. In a flash, the silent movement of Sir Caleb pulls Joe the Jobless' arm back to his side and pushes me forward, putting forth my arm instead. I nearly drop my sword and tear as the senior runs his wrinkled, cold hand along my forearm. I hold my breath as he examines it. After a moment, the senior steps back and bows his head. Forgive me, my lords. I feared you were adventurers, intent on deceiving me. You wear the skin of youth, as you say, but your build is one as frail as I. You truly are seniors. He steps aside and motions for us to pass. And that's how we got into the senior center. Yeah, actually, no. Young people can actually come to the senior center, and the old people just stare at you. Anyway, after the composition of the last Life at Email, I worked at Neo's house during our work session. See, Neo and I have been getting together every weekday and working for roughly 3, sometimes 4 hours on respective tasks. Me, either on my life history thing, which I'm working on writing down literally every memory I've ever had, and I actually just finished. It's a total of 55,000 words, approximately 1,300 memories, and around 225 links to other docs I've written. Actually took ages, but it feels great to be done with it. But I think I mentioned that in the last Life email, so I won't go there again. Or in this case, the writing of this Life email. And Neo, well, he's working on homework. Basically, I'm just there as a bit of moral support. So yeah, anyway, during one such work session, I finished my last Life email. And as you might surmise, it took a while, since the last Life email was such a beast. So yeah, after that time with Neo, I then head over to the dentist because my upper jaw had been hurting. I think I had some sort of sinus tissue thing because a while back when I bashed my face while playing with the Myers kids, the time when I chipped 4 teeth, they did an MRI and found I have polyps, I think they're called, growing inside my holes in my face. Sinus was actually so weird, though. It's like straight having a cave in your skull. So yeah, the dentist checked me out and said I didn't have any cavities. So he suspected it probably was a sinus issue as well. So that's, mostly nice to hear. The following day, I woke up and went straight to Neo's, worked on the last live deal, and did that for basically the whole time. I then went home since I was feeling pretty tired, played some Minecraft, and read some of the book I was working through before, despite feeling pretty meh, and going to Rashtricracy, where I basically rested for the whole Rashtricracy time. At that point, I started feeling more sick than tired, so I hit the sack early. That night, I slept poorly, because sick. I felt trash when I woke up. That morning, I read a bit more of my book, watched my body decay further, and then played Minecraft and watched anime for the rest of the day because I felt the big yuck. I also took a lot of baths. However, thankfully, the following day, I felt quite a bit better. I played some Minecraft that day and made some more progress on my castle. Working on the inner part now. Here's 2 pictures of where I'm at. And I think it's looking quite good, personally. But yeah, aside from Minecraft, you guessed it, anime occurred. Oh, and also listened to Pencil Aquinas podcast as I played Minecraft, though, so it wasn't a complete waste of time. After that, I read some more of my book and went to sleep. The following morning, I felt much better and much more functional. I spent 4 hours or so working on my life history memories thing. I then played some old Flash games for like 2 hours or so before spending a good chunk of my time finishing the book I was working through. I then played Minecraft while listening to Pencil Aquinas and went to bed. Since I was basically feeling healthy again the next day, I returned to my work at Neo's schedule and wrote down some more memories. Turns out I only have like 400 memories from before I was the age of 12. Like, that's more than half my life. And all I have to show for that half of life is like approximately 400 memories. Big yike. I mean, you would think for having lived 4,000 plus days, I would have more to show than a single memory for one of each 10th day. Actually disconcerting. I mean, okay, to be fair, for a good part of that, I was basically just a, breathing meat sack. But even if we take away that part, only 1 memory per 5 days still isn't a good track record. Just saying. So yeah, after making that concerning discovery, I then read an article Josiah sent me, and it was decently interesting. I then left Neo's and went home and sorted through some instrumental songs for my playlist. After that, I played Minecraft with Rashtricracy people till about 10:30 and called it a night. The following day was Sunday, and John and I constructed this D&D one-shot called Jurassic Park, which is as creative as the name as that is, I don't think it leaves much to the imagination as the theme of the one-shot. So yeah, as you might have guessed, we had to fight a Tarrasque, which, if you didn't know, is one of the strongest monsters in D&D. It's kind of like the epitome of strength, so I min-maxed my character just for it. Unfortunately, while the character I made was beautiful and very good at doing what he did, I forgot to account for the whole getting swallowed by the Tarrasque thing. Hence, unfortunately, even with Neo buffing me and my teammates trying to save me, such was my demise. However, we did, as a party, manage to blade the Tarrasque, aka to get less than half health, so we didn't do trash. After that, I then engaged in dinner and Bible study, during which time I did dishes for roughly 2 hours, and we were engaged in some, old Halo Slayer games, which is a big fun. I really like sniping people. And then, after that, another beautiful thing happened. You may think I've already reached the peak of nerddom. That, with a fancy gaming computer, excessive amounts of anime, and over 2 years of D&D under my belt, I could not possibly become even more nerdy. That I've reached the summit of nerddom itself. But you would be wrong, because see, I've now gotten into another nerd cliche. Magic the Gathering. Yep, that's right. I have now become an unrivaled nerd in the fullest sense of the word. And you know what? I'm okay with that. Magic is actually so cool. For those who don't know it, it's one of the biggest trading card games in the world, and it's basically just like a deck builder where you fight your deck against other people's decks. There are a lot of cards, so it can become a real money pit of a hobby if you let it. But Braden showed me this Facebook Marketplace deal where this guy was selling 5,000 cards for $50. So I'm pretty sad for the rest of ever. Do you know how many? You don't have a clue how many 5,000 cards is. It's actually an insane number of cards. Of course, they're almost all low-level cards, but still, there's some real gems in there. Anyway, Braden is really the culprit for me starting to play Magic. See, I played a tiny bit with a friend of mine, Hunter, for my freshman years, and I actually still have the deck he built with me back then, but I didn't really get into it then, though I did enjoy it. But now I have committed. Again, mostly because Braden got into it, and with both him and John, it was enough to push me over the edge, but also because Magic is such a cool game. It's a really good mix of strategy and chance, and I like how complicated it can be. And yeah, there you have it. Yet another area in which I, Alex the Nerd, have become interested in. That night, I got to sleep at 3 because Magic. The following morning, I was going to work over at Neo's, but after a few hours of work, we did play some Halo. Neo and I are going through the Halo 2 campaign right now on Legendary, and it's insanely hard. Whenever one of us dies, we have to just start the last checkpoint, and it's such a pain. However, slow and steadily, we are indeed making it. So yeah, after playing Halo, I was then gifted with a free pizza from the Bowens, which is a big yay. I then went over to the Myers and played some table tennis with Benj before I met up with the other members of the squad, and we did all the house searching before playing some Brawlhalla. The next day, I briefly saw Morgan before heading out to Neo's for our co-study time. I then made my first really bad crypto decision trade where I lost $150, so that was sad. After I head over to Ratio, where Alan and Noah, Southgate Noah, and I stepped out of the main talk, and I think successfully fixed the intertraditional communication problem. Basically, we think there are 3 fundamental and basically self-evident truths. Axiological laws, aka principle of identity, principle of bivalence, and law of non-contradiction. Then there are some normative claims, and that sense data reveals the external world in some real and not like just correlated manner. Thus, the content we deemed the box, aka that box, aka the box that if you're outside of it, we don't care about you because you actually can't talk. So yeah, that was a really important conversation, and I think it was a really productive one. It was also the first that I included Noah, and I think that was a good choice. Noah was able to follow along pretty well, though he didn't really have any brilliant insights. He wasn't really annoying, which was an maximal yay. So yeah, overall, good talk. After Ratio, I then headed to Braden's house, where Braden helped me build a pretty epic deck with his cards, since mine hadn't come yet, and that took a while. After we finished, we stayed up in the night battling my nuke against some of his. I won 2 games and lost 1, so not a bad trash record. Of course, after that it was pretty late, so I went to sleep. The next day I worked at Neo again, as is my new routine, after which I made some progress in the Halo campaign. Then a new event came into my life. See, it turns out that for the last ever, John has been the president of the Magic Club at CSU, and thus, with my entry into Magic, I have now begun attending said club. So, after Neo's, I then went to Magic Club, wherein I played a stupidly long game of Magic, as one might expect, given the fact that we were like 4 or 5 of us playing, which takes so much longer than 2-person matches. And then it was after that, I went back to Braden's and John's house, and we played Smash Bros. Until it was, well, as per usual, late. Once I got home, I took a quick bath to relax, and then went to bed. The day after that, Mom took me out for breakfast at Qdoba, which was nice, before I headed over to Neo's. We got to talk and catch up some, which is good. At Neo's, we did our usual work, but Neo was pretty worn out, so it was more like me working by myself. Hence, I ended up leaving quite a bit earlier than usual, so we could get some rest. After that, I then recorded Grace's parts for the Parody and Platypus parody of the last live email, which I must say are pretty great gems, and there's some pretty great gems in the recordings. I'm pretty sure Grace would be embarrassed if I shared them, though, for her sake, so you shall not witness the depths of her swoon. After that, I headed to Caleb's house, where Joe and I played Brawl as Caleb recorded his bits. He took ages, though, just gotta say. After that, we all played some Brawl until Ben stopped by, in hope of Halo, but Halo we did not do. Instead, the 4 of us drove to Root Beer from A&W, and that was supposed to be legendary, but at least in my opinion, it was just really decent. After that, we kind of just drove around and really didn't do much. So yeah, the drive was okay, nothing really special. The next morning I got up, hopped in my car, and as I was on my way to Neo's house, I got a call from him saying that he was going to hang out with his friend Alan. Hence, that was spontaneously canceled. Hence, I instead went back home and recorded the last live email, and then went to hang with Michael, who I hadn't seen in a while, and that was good. He's really surpassing me in a lot of philosophical areas at this point in time, and it's mega vexing, but my interests are too divided. Stupid Catholicism. Anyway, after hanging out with Michael, I watched a Your Line episode with the fam, since we're still working through that, and then Ben, Joe, Caleb, and I all went to the senior center, originally to go chill in their hot tubs, but there were old ladies in there, so we may have stayed in the showers for like 30 minutes. To be fair, though, the showers were nice. It's not like we were scared of old ladies, per se. It's just that it would have been one of those awkward situations where you'd have to, like, have our conversation in one half of the hot tub, and they'd be listening to our conversation on the other side, and it just wasn't a great idea. However, the best part was, we finally decided that we each added $5 to the senior center's water bill. We all headed out. We all went out. Now, Ben headed to the hot tub and got right in. However, all 3 of us, me, Joe, and Caleb, basically without hesitation, went straight for the pool, leaving Ben alone with the old ladies. The absolute look of betrayal on his face was probably one of the greatest sights I've seen. It was absolutely priceless. So yeah, eventually Ben, propelled by awkwardness, timidly left the hot tub and came to chew us out, but I don't think any of us regretted our decision. We then conferred and decided the hot tub wasn't worth it, and Joe, after noticing a sign that said 72 lengths of the pool consisted of a mile, pledged to give $20 to anyone who could swim a mile. Thus, Caleb and I took him up on that, and for the next 30 minutes or so, swam back and forth. I made a total of 20 laps, and I think Caleb made 27. I don't know. He did a significant number more than me. Also, I just kept not swimming straight, so I'm sure that added some. Plus, Joe and Ben kept talking to me, making me laugh. And I swear I almost drowned like 5 times. Actually made it so much harder. So yeah, we ended up, that ended. We got some of the senior center's free drinks, which I loved. And then we left. We decided we'd go to Fat Shack and get some deep fried Oreos, which were decent. And then we drove around, which was kind of the last hurrah for Ben, because he was heading out to LA basically right after that, on this creator's, like, equivalent of a Great British Breaking Show. He's still there as I write this, and he's doing fairly well, actually. Man, if he wins, he's going to get $2,500. How crazy would that be? Again, why am I studying to become an engineer? So yeah, that was a decent time. The next day consisted of some anime, a bit of video games, a birthday party my parents organized because I, continue to age. During the tail end of that, I checked out and joined Liam for a Minecraft call late into the night, and then I rounded the night with some anime. The day thereafter was a painful one, mostly because I went to go donate plasma and it went horribly wrong, but also because it was my birthday. So basically I woke up and nothing happened, so I was like, well, might as well go get a bit of cash. So I went to go donate. And, since I had not been in a while, they did this whole checkup thing that actually took ages. And I think I waited for a solid hour just to get in their special testing room, in addition to the long time you have to wait in the line. Then, once they finally sent me to the floor, they could not get my blood to flow. I think they repositioned the needle in my left arm 7 times, and then they switched to the right for 5 more times. That actually sucks so bad and is seriously so painful. And then, after all that, they couldn't get the blood flow, so I didn't end up donating plasma more than like a tiny bit, which is a really sucky experience. Like, bad enough, I don't think I'll be going back for a while. However, the reason I have the liberty to make that decision is because I finally figured out Alan's back-end crypto voodoo. Basically, I finally understand how this stuff works, and I'm earning, I kid you not, 100% or more interest on my money. That doesn't make sense. It was 20%. Anyway, which means I literally get like $10 a day for just letting my money sit in crypto. Not to mention what I earn from smart trading. Anyway, I've gotten like $300 in the last 2-3 weeks, and it's actually fantastic. So yeah, that's how my income is right now. Hopefully it doesn't crash or something, because the majority of my savings are in there. So yeah, that's been going well. Anywho, after that terrible plasma donation experience, both my arms were partially immobilized and bandaged, so I watched anime until I could take the bandages off. Mom then got me noodles as my birthday dinner, which was nice. And then to my surprise, the James and Myers family showed up at my house. I had an idea it was happening because Joe mentioned something through a text about me not inviting Jake, but it wasn't revealed until like an hour before by my mom that they were coming over. See, that was decent, though a bit awkward. And the notable events from that time was Joe, Benj, and I played hand and brain chess, where Benj told Joe what piece to move, and Joe decided how to move it, or vice versa, and that was pretty fun. Also, to my surprise, Neo, City, Braden, and his girlfriend, and Jeremy stopped by. See, I had tried to keep the date of my birthday secret from them because I don't really enjoy birthday celebrations in most cases. A lot of people, putting at the center of attention is not really enjoyable. But yeah, they all showed up, and I actually really appreciate it. It was a cool way to show they care, and it wasn't super obnoxious. So honestly, I was glad for it. So yeah, that happened. Things wound down, and then Joe stuck around, so we decided to hang. We played some anime chess while hanging out at his house, and then we watched this anime movie that was supposed to be really good called Your Name. But honestly, I don't think it was that well done. I mean, sure, the visuals were pretty spectacular, but the plot was meh at best. It just wasn't a masterpiece, though it was decent. Anyway, we watched that and then headed home. The following day, I went to Neo's, as per usual, spent a good amount of time debating with Alan on things on Discord instead of writing down memories, and then went over to Joe's for his stupid idea that he and Noah concocted. Basically, apparently, they were talking at Southgate, and they were thinking how they couldn't do certain unhealthy things once they were older and recover like they can now. Hence, they thought, hey, why don't we drink caffeine until we shake? And they invited me to join them on this stupid idea, which I guess shows I'm stupid because I agreed. So yeah, we all met up at Joe's house, and then once all the members of the squad arrived, we drove to the store, bought copious amounts of caffeine, climbed up the James's roof, and started to chug. The results? Well, the results is Caleb is ridiculously tolerant of caffeine, and I am not. Both Joe and Noah exhibited mild resistance, and I don't know about Karina, as she wasn't willing to drink more than a mere Starbucks Frappuccino. So yeah, when we proceeded to take a walk, I was very giddy and energized by only 270 milligrams. And then, by the time the walk concluded, I began to wind down and also began to feel really sick. Gosh, during that time, we ate what we had left. Oh, before we left for Pinball Jones, and I felt really trash, like on the verge of throwing up. That's why I said this idea was stupid, because gosh, I did not feel good after the fact. However, by sheer willpower and an immeasurable hate for throwing up, I managed to get through it and began to recover. When the we are then carpooled down to Pinball Jones, which was really going to be a Morgan and I thing, but she said I could invite friends, so I invited Horde. And here's a picture I took during that time. So basically, Pinball Jones is a pinball place / bar, and on Monday, it turns out they have unlimited pinball for $5, hence Morgan and my original plan. It was actually a ton of fun. Pinball is pretty great by itself, but there were also a bunch of other games there that were also really fun. So the other thing is, I had my first official drink, courtesy of Alan, and it was a half glass of pear cider, and it was the first alcohol that did not taste bad. I'm not saying it tasted good, mind you, but it didn't taste bad. Hence, insofar as it wasn't disgusting, it was good. However, I didn't notice any effects from that. I just, had an alcohol experience, so that was important, I guess. And if I intend to keep it that way or not, I didn't experience anything, is something I'm considering. See, there's not much to gain by alcohol consumption, as it seems almost entirely a lose-lose scenario. But, I'm sure I explained my reason on that before, so I'll move on. Anyway, it was a really good time. Quite a few people came, and that was cool to see. And I got to play like a solid hour and a half of air hockey, undefeated, which was great for me, and really actually for just about everyone else, which of course made it only more fun for me. So yeah, that was a good time, and it came to a close. However, what came after was probably just as good, if not better. During the event, Caleb went to hang with Jake, so he peaced out, which left the rest of us to carpool back to Joe's house. We then decided to stargaze and talk out in the park really close to Joe's, and it was a pretty good conversation. However, it got really cold, so despite my protest, we all moved inside to do indoor stargazing, which was stupid, but, a warm concept. We then talked some more, and it was a big bueno conversation. Noah then had to head out because responsibleness, and he left me, Joe, and Karina. And the conversation that took place was also pretty decently high caliber, so that was also good. Then Karina fell asleep as Joe and I debated about prayer. It was like the third time the conversation had been had, so I was quite over it, both for that and for other reasons. But yeah, it wasn't trash, but it also wasn't useful. But anyway, that went on until like 5:30 in the morning, at which point Karina woke up and decided it was probably time for her to go to bed. So me and Joe were like, yeah, fair enough. And that's how our long day ended. Then I only got 4 hours of sleep, which I was surprisingly not very tired the next day. I did the classic work time with Neo, during which we decided to do a walk on CSU's campus, which proved to be a mistake as we got sucked into talking to people on campus. Okay, I would 100% blame Noah for that though. Here I am, just standing in the circle, quietly listening and paying attention, and Noah's like, "You should ask Alex about that," and he just shoved me in the conversation. So I really had no choice. Thanks, Noah. The first conversation was really easy because the dude was super stupid, but the second conversation was harder because the dude was mildly intelligent and happened to have a problem with the hardest problem known to Christianity, the problem of divine hiddenness. I don't have an answer to divine hiddenness. I have a dodge. So, as you might expect, that conversation didn't go fantastically, though it didn't go horribly. But yeah, I definitely didn't enjoy it. I'm happy to talk about things that I have an answer to, but not things I haven't figured out. So yeah, after talking with random students at Ratio, I then picked up Joe and went to go get tested for COVID because for my birthday, Mom had gotten me 5 concert tickets that required a negative COVID test to let you in. So yeah, we did that, and there was a 0 line, so that was really nice. We then went back to Joe's house where we somewhat hastily constructed the Perry the Platypus parody from the aforementioned recordings. We then both attended at Ratio, wherein Alan and I, with some input of Joe from Noah, had yet another conversation about prayer. I defended myself quite well because Alan couldn't beat my arguments up. And yeah, that went on for quite some time, and I need to get this issue sorted out. I then slept because I didn't get enough sleep the night before. The morrow brought me to Neo's, where I worked as per usual. We also went on a walk where I gave a succinct summary of Thomism, which I thought I did pretty well, and I think Neo also understood decently. After that all elapsed, I drove over to Joe's house, where him, and him drove to Karina's place, from which we met everyone, meaning me, Joe, Caleb, Benj, and Karina, and we all drove down to Denver to see the concert. Along this drive, we concocted a brilliant and genius plan, though I'm not sure how widely the plan can be shared, at least because a certain individual may be humiliated. Hence, I shall err on the side of caution. Anyway, the other thing that happened is we hit traffic, which big sucked, and thus made it so we were late to the concert. Hence, upon our arrival, we were surprised to discover the concert had been canceled due to a fire. Here's a picture of us weaving through the crowds. So yeah, that happened. Many of us needed to go to the bathroom, so we entered the nearest facility, only to discover the horde around us all had the same need, and thus typical gender rules were ignored, and women were going to both men's and women's restrooms, because stupidly long line for women's restroom. This resulted in me seeking out a separate bathroom, a journey on which Benj accompanied me. Hence, we went to this place a little ways off, and then all of us ended up congregating there and doing stuff. Upon doing so, we decided not to stay in Denver, and that our lives would be better spent eating donuts. So we walked back to the car and drove to the one and only donut place that's esteemed in Longmont, only to discover it was under construction. So that was definitely a letdown. After that, we decided we would eat Popeyes as a consolation food, and it tasted like a consolation food, at least compared to donuts. So yeah, that was meh. We then drove back home to the Myers. Upon arrival, Karina made cookies with a bit of help from Joe and I. And then it took some time, but we begrudgingly... It took some time, some very begrudging dance movie persuasion. Interesting. We played some hand and brain chess. After that, I carpooled Joe back to his house and watched a bit of anime together before I went home and to bed. The following day, while working at Neo's, I read the next chapter of the book study I'm working with me and Alan. And now 2 new guys are in that, so we'll see how it goes. After reading that chapter, Neo and I went on a walk, which was bueno, and I got to break down Platonism, Middle Platonism, and Neoplatonism for him, so I was hopefully, he learned something. After that, I was free for once, so Dad and I hung out. We got sushi and then played some table tennis. I regret to report that he did win the majority of the games, but mark my words, someday I will best him. After that, my 5,000 magic cards I had previously mentioned came in the mail, so I got to sorting them by color, and gosh, that was a task. Sorting 5,000 cards take ages. I sorted half and then had to take a break. During said break, I started doing crypto voodoo through Astroport, which is big smart because I've made like $500 as of when I'm writing this. So yeah, I started doing that and then went back to sorting. I then finished around midnight, and here's some pictures of my accomplishments. I mean, do you see how many cards are in there? Don't get me wrong, I'm stoked to have so many, but sorting them is a huge pain. In regards to that, Braden and his girlfriend Maddie and I have struck a deal where they get to pick out some of the best cards as well as the extras I have for each color that they alphabetize, because I'm like, look, I would like them to be alphabetized, but that's actually just a pain to do. So yeah, really glad they're doing that for me, even if it cost me some good cards. The following day was a Saturday early morning, and we did book studies. We actually ended up talking until like 1 in the afternoon, so that's like, 5 hours? It was a while. The trouble with that, when we run late like that, is I always get so hungry, and it becomes like more annoying than anything else. Though I will say I do value the conversations we get to have and the things we've been learning. However, during that long talk, and no doubt, at least, partially responsible for the length of it, Al and I talked, and he convinced me to commit to going to CSU. So yay! I have officially made my college decision. It wasn't really much of a choice when Alan laid it out. After all, my friends were here. I literally live 3 houses from campus, and the rent is free. My parents won't make me pay for a living here, right? I look over to Mom sitting beside me, and I give her like a nervous smile. However, as it stands, assuming I don't have to pay my parents, I should get enough in poor person money to pay entirely for my college. So that's pretty sweet, and basically what persuaded me to go to CSU. I mean, you have the college of choice, or you have the choice of a college for free or college not for free. And I assure you, one seems far more appealing. Anyway, after that, I proceeded to lose $150 in crypto trading, so yay, go me. Thereafter, I met up with Maddie and Brayden and played some Magic with them, which was fun. I then participated in the weekly Ratchet Christie Minecraft before researching how to get paid for being poor. The next day, I got food at Chipotle because I had a gift card there, and then walked over to Neo's house. I then once I reached that, I worked alongside him for a few hours before Brayden came over, and we played Magic for like 4 hours, wherein he actually destroyed me, which was anti-fun. After that, I hung out with Joe and we drove to Estes. However, during that drive, Joe tried to do a 180 drift, but stopped halfway. So when he started again to try and complete the said drift, he miscalculated and hit the curb. Which, what can I say? Curbs love me. Thankfully, the damage was super minor and he got to, had to get a new rim, as well as an alignment done, which is fine. And the car drove us all the way back home. So it was just a minimal sad. But yeah, we stayed up till like 3 talking and it was big bueno. The next day was spent at Neo's, as per usual. I then picked up Joe and we enacted a mini birthday celebration for Benj. I would say we kidnapped him, but we didn't really do so. So I wouldn't say that. Honestly, last year was much better, but oh well. We took him out to Red Robin, ate food in a proper manner. Of course, I donned my Thales voice for the occasion, and then went back to Joe's house and played poker until it was really devolved into Joe and Caleb playing poker and Noah and I being notified if we won. Noah and I played some chess at that time, as that went down, and then we played a game of double hand brain chess where Benj was Noah's brain and I was Caleb's. And we made some big mistakes, but me and Caleb still won in the end. The next day, I went to the senior center with Caleb, and as we planned to complete the mile that Joe challenged to swim a while back, though unfortunately, the reward had expired. However, we found a bunch of old people doing aerobic exercise or something in the pool, which, fair enough, this is their turf, so I can't complain. Thus, Caleb and I just chilled for about half an hour in the pool waiting for them to leave, but they didn't, so that was a big sad. We then got some free coffee, played pool when I lost 2 of 3 games, both times because I pocketed the 8 ball, so that was a big sad. It was around this point in time that Noah informed us that we had been gifted a house to live in for the duration of the trip, which was a maximal happy. Like, actually so great, because as I recounted, finding a house to rent was been very hard, and further, they were letting us stay in their house for free. And free means that it's not cost very much. Plus, their house is mega nice, like way beyond any of the houses we could have afforded. So overall, maximal yay. To celebrate, we went back to Joe's house and climbed a tree. Because as we all know, celebratory tree climbing is the height of revelry. After that, and being cold atop the tree, we then went inside and played a game of Codenames, because Caleb couldn't stick around, and thus we had to do something short and trivial. Then Joe, Karina, and I all journeyed to Noah to gift him sparkling cider in celebration, but the trip was a bit inefficient, because we were told that the wrong Noah was working by one of the store people, and we also got Qdoba as we waited for Noah to arrive at his work, which he never did. Nevertheless, we eventually managed to infiltrate his house and surprise him with said sparkling cider there, and it was a joyous occasion. We then ditched Karina, somehow. Oh, right. We grabbed Noah and drove back to Joe's house, that's how. And drove to Estes with Noah in my car. Noah asked all the questions, which is a more relaxing experience than me asking the questions, but the conversation was still so-so. Also, I ate like 10 plus pepper jack cheese sticks. I honestly do not think that's an exaggeration. Upon returning home and dropping off Noah, I allowed him to sleep, and then we retracted our Korea ditching and slurped her in the car so let's go stargazing with the 3 of us. However, 2 vexing facts obtained. First and foremost, Karina is cursed, and the stars hide from her presence. So, once again, we engaged in cloud gazing instead of stargazing. And second, it was stupid cold. Like, actually so cold. And we even brought like 10,000 blankets. And I assure you, Joe and I got a lot closer to the experience in more ways than one. Nevertheless, the time was decent, and Joe handled the conversation, which was making nice. And there were some important things that were said, but we were already running out of content to talk about since the ban was in place. So after that elapsed, Joe and I dropped Karina off at home, and then upon reaching Joe's house, I went home and went to sleep. The following day, I woke up at 2 in the afternoon. I am the king of sleeping in, and anyone who wishes to try and confiscate that title from me will be hard-pressed to do so. I then went to Neo's, where we worked, and then watched the first of the Star Wars movies. I think I had seen some of it a long time ago, but, it made so much more sense watching with Neo, especially because he would explain things. I then played some Magic as Wednesday at Magic Club, and thereafter I took Joe drifting, which I think he enjoyed, and I certainly did. I then watched this Don't Talk to the Police video he recommended to me as I took a bath, and then I went to bed. As the sun rose, I sojourned to the DMV to try and get my license renewed, only to find out that without an appointment, I shall be cast into outer darkness. So that was unfortunate. I then found myself at Neo's, wherein I labored to complete my memory recording task. After about 3.5 hours of work, we then played 4 or so half hours of Halo, which was a make-a-slog, but we did it. After that, I went home and took Mom and Grace out with the intent of taking them drifting, only to find in a short amount of time between the day before and the present day, all the snow had melted, and thus drifting was not possible. Thus, disappointed, I nevertheless got sushi and mochi out of the deal, so, things were worth it. We then watched a bit of anime, ate our sushi, and then I rounded out the night by playing Minecraft as I listened to the horrible things Joe had done in my last life with email. The following day, I hung out with Dad again, and we played some pool at the senior center. I then worked on writing down my memories for around 3.5 hours before watching all of Anohana with Mom and Morgan. They didn't like it that much, which was kind of surprised, but oh well. The next day, I took Joe to go pick up his car and then joined Ben, Sam, Seth, and I for rollerblading, which we did down in Windsor. However, he hadn't worn the blades in over 2 years and it was really hurting his feet, thus he went the big slow. At one point, we all took turns pushing him. So yeah, overall, it was a good time, but not the best to be sure. Once Karina graciously picked us up, we traveled to Walmart, wherein I sponsored some snacks, before we headed to Myers' house for some good old games of Catan. I don't remember who won, but I have the distinct impression it wasn't me. After that time elapsed, I went home and participated in Ratchet Christie Minecraft, and subsequently went to sleep. The following morning, a beautiful thing happened, and that was D&D. Part of the reason I've been working with Neo each week is so we could finally get his campaign started, and on this day, it finally began. I think Neo did really well for our first session with 7 people, and I'm pretty excited about the character I have in the campaign so far. So yeah, did that, and that was good. And then went over to Braden's house, and we did some magic battles, in which I absolutely clapped him. I won all 3 games, no contest. After that, I played Jonathan 2 games, and I won the first but lost the second. Overall, not bad. My Angel deck, which I made, which is literally just taking all the cards that look good and piling them together, seems to be actually pretty good. The following day, I woke up at an ungodly hour at 9 in the morning because Neo and I had Star Wars Anime Exchange to enact. I literally watched anime with Neo for 8.5 hours straight. It was crazy. After that, we got a bit of food and watched a bit of Star Wars before I left to join the squad for the planned Hot Springs trip. Now, the sad thing that occurred here is that the Myers dad ended up telling us we weren't allowed to ride in the back of the truck. And I mean, I understand why, since if we crashed, it would be maximal sad, but it still meant we couldn't stargaze on the way there, which is a big reason I was excited to go. And the odds of crashing are just so low, so I thought it was worth it. Oh well, I wasn't going to answer his pronouncements, though, because nothing good would have come of that. So yeah, as a result, I rode in the middle, silly as the truck, for the whole 2.5 hours, and was mega squished. We didn't talk that much, but that was all good as Noah and Caleb Bauer in the back. We played 2 games of Polytopia simultaneously. I think by the time we got there, I was winning both. But even if that is the case, the game just Caleb and I were playing probably would have gone to Caleb, because I still don't know how to beat his stupid bug tribe. Once there, we all engaged in a well-loved activity of hot springing, though Caleb and I did spice things up by laying down in the cold river. Karina even joined us once. We talked about quite a few important things, and it was probably worth it for that reason. We didn't get home until like 4:30 in the morning, though, so it was certainly a trip. The next day, I was back at Neo's as soon as I woke up to spend the entire day watching anime and then Clone Wars. People then came over and we played some boring games. I got one shot by John's broken D&D character in PvP. Then Neo and I watched some more Star Wars. Next morning was the same routine, and I've got to say this time, I really started to dislike this. I mean, don't get me wrong, I could appreciate a good binge, but it was too much. Watching day in and day out really sucks. I feel like I'm just thoroughly wasting my time, and it actually disgusts me. So yeah, I started to really feel that around the 3rd day of this, but I pushed through. After watching a lot of Clone Wars, I went over to my house and watched Violet Evergarden with Sydney and John, though Sawyer was there for a bit too. However, I forgot about Sydney's low tolerance for gore, so when Violet's Evergardens fell off, that hit her hard. This is one of the downsides of not being attentive to others' emotional states. It means you mess up with things like that, so that was a bit of sad. But yeah, otherwise, I think everyone thought Violet Evergarden was well done, and they appreciate it. After that, I then went on a baby drive with Joe, and we did some anime chess. Man, Joe just destroys me at anime chess. It's not like he's watched more than I have, it's just he's watched like the first 5 that always just murders me. And the next day, I petitioned for Neo and us to do something other than just watch stuff, and he agreed. We played some Halo and then watched some Clone Wars. After that, Caleb and I met up to swim, but unfortunately the pool was closer during break, so once again, our attempt to swim the mile was foiled. Nevertheless, we did get chill in the hot tub at the rich person's house that Mom and Dad were house sitting for at that time, so that wasn't a total loss. After that, Joe and I met up with Noah, and we played a special 3-person game of chess we made up, and it worked surprisingly well. Joe and I went on a drive, and I thanked Noah before rounding out the night with some anime. The day thereafter, I went to the rich person's house and worked on Life of Emo. I then played a bit of Oculus because they have abnormally spacious rooms, and that night Morgan came over and we talked until about 1 a.m, so it was good. Finally, yesterday, Mom and Dad had to be gone from 1 to 4, so I helped take care of the dog during that time. I worked him in this email, and then Alan came over, and we went paddleboarding out on the lake behind the house. I've got to say, just sitting on paddleboards out on the lake is a pretty great way to talk. I highly recommend it. We then came back and chilled in the hot tub until basically Mom got home. That was a good conversation. Probably the most vulnerable one Alan and I've had this far. And thus we drove to Panera, got some food, and talked about Divine Hiddenness before going to the bar and playing pool. So in case you didn't know, bars are kind of sketchy. I won both games. Oh, no. We both won 2 games, so the pool encounter was tied in the end. After I took Alan back to his car and went home to join the Ratchet Christie Minecraft Discord call, though I didn't play Minecraft, instead I just hunted for anime clips to turn into an AMV with Joe. Finally, after that, I ended up meeting up with Braden and played a few games of Magic with him and got destroyed. And yeah, he bullied me. Finally, today, I woke up at like 1, headed straight to Joe's house where we spent more than 4 hours composing the aforementioned AMV, and I think it's our best yet. Here's the link. I then came home, took a quick bath, ate food, and have been working on this ever since. There you are. This Life of the Email shall join his comrades in infamy.